external world things to the inside. Meditate. That is where meditation happens. Yes. Thank you very much. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. I was waiting for the punchline, which was very long in the end. Well, thank you very much. I would like to introduce the next speaker, who is from Brazil. His name is Henrique Freitas. Freitas, yes. He's representing us as a young Buddhist who will be talking about his views, young person's view on sustainability. Let me introduce Mr. Freitas. Thank you.
Venerable Bhikkhus, Bhikkhunis, Ajahn Sulak, Kunmu, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here today. Kunmu asked me to present the youth perspective on sustainability, so I'm going to talk a little bit about what us from the Princeton University group have seen in the last 2 days. A few examples of sustainability at Princeton University and in my country, Brazil. And then I'd like to address some mindsets of how the youth think we should go about changing the world and having sustainability as a part of our lives. So to begin, by addressing some of the things we've heard in the past couple of days, this is a beautiful conference. So many people here with so many good intentions, so many great ideas, beautiful thoughts, and a lot of good work as well. But one thing we've heard in the past is that secular people don't necessarily agree with us in terms of sustainability. Now that's not true. Secularism is not equal to not having morals. Some of the most wonderful people I know don't follow religion. That does not mean that they don't love, that they don't accept morals, that they don't make good decisions. And us as religious people, all of our teachers, all of our prophets taught compassion, right? Lord Buddha said that the ultimate wisdom is to have compassion for all. And when we reject secularism, when we reject people who have different values than us, then we're not able to work with them. This is what is happening. It's everybody's fault. It's not capitalism's fault, it's not corporations' fault, it's not the government's fault, it's everybody's fault. Because none of us are being able to work together today. So who has to change? Everybody does. Not just the other side. It has to be one side. And this has been said throughout the conference by many people. But usually, we like to point fingers. That's normal, it's human nature. I do that all the time. But when we look at secularism, when we look at capitalism, we need to accept this is what's happening. How can we, as religious people, as human rights workers, mold our work to then change what is happening in the world? We cannot turn back and say, let's go back to nature. We cannot turn back and say, how did we all get here? We flew. We took planes. Look at the air conditioning right now. Sorry? Ship. It's still technology. Right? You'll have a moment after we have questions. We flew. We're in air conditioning right now. Even you are in electricity right now. I'm sure we've all driven cars before. How do we save our food? In refrigerators, we use electricity. Technology is a part of life. Now, it's not to accept all of it and try to advance it as much as possible. Greed is real, and it's not good. We all agree on that. But how do we come to the middle path, as the Buddha said? It's to scale it back. It's a little less, a lot less actually, but not completely gone. What allows us to be alive at 80 years old, Ajahn Sulak? Medicine, advancements, society. There are good things from both sides. And we, who in many cases have higher, as the bhikkhus and bhikkhunis have higher morals, higher intentions, we have to know how to take this, bring this, and present it to the rest of the world together. Not as superiors, but together. Now, I'd like to present some examples of sustainability From where I come from, both in my university, Princeton University in the United States, and in Brazil. So to start with Brazil, next year is the World Cup, football. I love football, I'm from Brazil, it's in the blood. And Brazil is going to be the first World Cup where all 12 stadiums are going to be green stadiums. So what does that mean? That means that all the stadiums are sustainable in terms of water. They collect rainwater and use that to irrigate the field, to flush the toilets, to wash the stairs, all that kind of thing. Their energy, the heat within the stadium is conserved by the structure. But all that kind of thing is expensive, right? Another example in Brazil are biofuels. Brazil developed a technology on using sugarcane for biofuels. And every single gas station in Brazil today has a minimum of 15% of ethanol. Ethanol comes from sugarcane, so not from oil. It's renewable. It pollutes less, it's more efficient, and it's cheaper. But how do you come up with that sort of technology? It takes money, it takes science, it takes people learning and studying to be able to reach that kind of thing. It's not just about good intentions. It is about development, yes. Now, a couple of examples in Princeton. Princeton University in 2011 produced over 1,000 tons of waste of food. So just for you to understand, 1,000 tons of food thrown in the trash is enough to fill this room that we are standing in. It's enough to feed 10,000 people in a year. 1,000 tons of food. Imagine all this room is just filled from bottom to top with waste food, all thrown away. But what Princeton University did in 2011 was to bring all that waste to a pig farm where the pigs would eat it, and then that would be reused. It's used as compost, it's used to feed animals, it's used to erase the footprint of the university. Another example is Princeton has its own energy plant and is building more solar panels. What that does is allow the university to bring our own resources in keeping our buildings sustainable. But all that costs money. Again, just the solar panels at Princeton are going to cost $45 million. $45 million. That's about 130 million ringgits. Now, are we going to come up with 130 million ringgits to build solar panels for one place? The point is, sustainability is expensive today. Sustainability needs to make sense for everybody, not just those who want good intentions. But there's people who only care about money. And how do we convince them to come into sustainability? It has to be worth it for them as well. How do we make that? Efficiency. We explain that through new technologies, through new investments, we're able to use less money with energy, use less money with heating, use less money with water. And that's what for example, Princeton is doing today. The new solar panels are going to reduce energy costs by 4%. That's going to be about, I think, a $3.5 or $4.5 million savings every year. So eventually, that money will be worth it. Eventually, the investment will come back. But how do we, as religious leaders, as religious groups, bring that to the private sector? Well, we need their technology. We need their investments. And they need our intentions as well. They need our ideas. It's about coming together, realistically. Less about preaching to the choir or talking about individuals. One person's idea can change the world, but one person's actions on their own life will only change their own life. If we're talking about true sustainability here, it has to be big scale. It's not about a village, it's about a state, it's about a country, it's about a continent, and eventually it becomes about the world. And what the youth sees as important in this is exactly what Lord Buddha taught. It's compassion, it's wisdom. It's an understanding that we have to work all together. It's not just about Buddhism, Muslim. It's about everything. When we put boundaries on what people are and aren't, then even if we say something like unity, sometimes what we mean isn't exactly that. And that's what we have to change. We have to understand that we need both sides. We need the private sector. We need the West. We need the United States. We need secular people. From the youth perspective, that's the only way to reach true sustainability in the long run. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, I would like to invite a special guest today. He's from Malaysia. He's the founder of the Malaysian Consultative Council of Buddhism, Christianity, Hinduism, Sikhism, and Taoism. Now, our main focus of this conference is Interfaith Dialogue for Peace and Sustainability. And it is very suitable to have Mr. Sadao Hacharan Singh to give us a talk about his experiences. Let me invite Mr. Singh, please.
Thank you very much, Moderator of this gathering today, and all of you who are here for the very noble purpose of finding some solution to the problem that our world is facing. And how do we go about it? What we do? What I'm going to do is I'm going to have a dialogue with you. It's interfaith dialogue. I don't want to give a lecture or something of that nature, just read or speak just on certain matters. I want to have a dialogue with you. That means I will speak on certain points. What experience we have in this Malaysia. Malaysia is a multi-religious, multi-cultural, multi-language, multi-faith. Everything is in multi here. And how have we been living in this environment so peacefully? Are there any problems? If these problems are there, how we have been able to overcome or at least reduce them? So I will be giving you just a very real, everyday examples of what we are facing and what we do and how we should proceed. The other side is the spiritual one. The spiritual one, I will speak also from the Sikh religious point. What is Sikh religious spiritual point that is suitable for us to adopt and have peaceful relationship and sustainability. Now let us first look at Malaysia. In Malaysia we have Muslim faith, Christians, Hindus, Sikhs and Taoists, Buddhists, and this Malaysian Consultative Council of Buddhism, Christianity, Hinduism, Sikhism and Taoism was formed for that purpose which you are discussing today. You know, in this Malaysia, the government is based on the principles enshrined in the Federal Constitution. And the Federal Constitution gives Islam a special place. Islam is the religion of the Federation, and other religions may be practiced in peace and harmony in any part of the Federation. That is the position of the religion. And how it has been used, unfortunately, people don't understand. And as we have heard from previous speakers, there are people who proclaim that our religion is the best. Our religion is the only one that can give solution. And that creates problems. So when we have that kind of thinking, it becomes very important for us how to go about it non-violently. Don't want to create any violence and yet overcome the situation. And there comes the dialogue which you are all going around. You've been to eating where Buddhists and the Islamic issues are discussed, I suppose. And here we have now, and I want you all to listen and see how do we overcome it. Now in this country, the government is majority Islam. And most of the funding is also done from the government, where other religions have to do with their own resources. But that doesn't create any conflict between us. So we approach from the religious point of view of patience, understanding. What we are doing now is, in this country, we have achieved that kind of situation because of the religious teachings, whether it's from the Buddhism or Christianity or Sikhism. Malaysia has the same problem, social problem of the young people are there. I don't have to tell you all the things, crime, pornography, even the same-sex marriage also creating a lot of problem in this country. Then we, of course, as our Majlis, as our Malaysian Consultative Council, we have given our views. But as you know, the dominant religion is Islam, and they are not quite comfortable with this. So that creates some kind of ground for disagreement. And we have to overcome it with that, what we have heard now, what Buddhist teachings are there, compassion. In our religion, like Sikh religion, is not so well known. Where Buddhism, Christianity, Islam are well known, people are reading. Where the Sikh religion is actually an epitome, a collection of all the teachings for that very purpose you are here, multi-faith dialogue. I don't know whether you know, our holy book, Holy Guru Granth Sahib, actually contains revelations, teachings of Sikhs, Muslims, Hindus, high class, low class, there's no. All are treated as human beings. That is what we have to do. We must look at human beings. As human beings, we have certain weaknesses. Every human being has. And our religion says, if there is a conflict, it is because of either greed, the person who is in power not satisfied with that, want to grab more property or land or some natural resources. Nowadays you have the petrol, oil. Certain places more petrol and oil, certain less. And some people who are more powerful want to overcome their own difficulties, they want to grab that. So that leads also to conflict. In our Sikh religion, there are 5 human weaknesses, which are the foundation for all the conflict. And they are lust, anger, attachment, undue attachment to worldly things, and greed. Now greed is the most powerful in this because nowadays you see people are earning a lot of things, still they want to do something to earn some more. As you have been pointed out, animals and others, they live day to day. But as human beings with all the intellect, we think 20 years, 50 years ahead. Today's parents are working more for the children than we have. Not for themselves alone. What our children will have, what the education will have. So what we have in this world today is a conflict which is created by the humans. And we must overcome these things by the teachings. So what is the teaching? The Sikh religion teaches, first thing is compassion, we call it daya, compassion. Compassion means when you see a person who is doing something wrong and you try to persuade or make them understand him instead of dealing with them violently. Then we have second thing, as human beings, look at the whole problem as human being. I mean, theoretically, philosophically, I can say a lot of things, but that doesn't make much sense. What we must learn is what are the causes of problems between the human beings. There is no problem among the animals. Only one country or another country, one person, one race, one religion trying to overcome and control others, but not the enemy. So what we have to do, find in our own religious traditions, what are the things that we can use to make that peace sustainable. And our Sikh religion has been and is still teaching that kind of compassion, understanding, and equality. Equality of human being. Just because I am a Sikh or I don't cut my hair and I cannot call myself better than a person who has gone against the order of God and shaved or done other things. That you cannot. You have to do by the deeds. In fact, when our Guru Nanak went to Mecca and all the learned people gathered, and they asked the question, which one is the better religion, Islam or Hinduism? So Guru Nanak replied, neither. It is all the actions. If your actions are noble, your actions are good, then your profit, your reward will be ever. If your actions are bad, then your reward will be punishment. So it is not the label of religion that makes a person better. Then we have another problem, secular and spiritual. We say that secularism does not necessarily mean that a person is irreligious. Secular only means we as human beings treat everybody equal, give them the right, let them play in their own way, don't impose your own ideas. These are the what we say secularism. But some people say no, because our religion has certain other principles, we don't like the word secularism. So we have to create also another understanding. We have been to EKM, we also go there, we already discuss all these things. So peace among human beings is sustainable only if we follow the spiritual values that are taught by each one. And they are compassion, patience, equality, and not emphasizing the faults of others, but trying to correct them. If you try to correct them, then you can achieve something. If you try to say that because you are doing something wrong, then you must punish and go around, then it creates a conflict. It is the same thing between the countries. One country feels that they want to dominate another, and then they try always. Nowadays we have UN intervening, so in spite of that, there is a conflict. And one religion does not necessarily mean people of one religion living in one country are more peaceful than people living in multi-religious society. This is not the case either. Like in Malaysia, we are multi-religious, we are living very peacefully. We have problems. We have problems on conversion. You can convert to Islam, but you cannot convert out of Islam. You can become a Muslim, but you cannot leave Islam. We have problem on that. Social problem is because today a person becomes a Muslim, tomorrow you want to come out, cannot. The social problem to the family and others, many things. We are trying to overcome all these things, which you may not have in other countries. So what we are doing now in this country is to make this peace sustainable in Malaysia, and that is a universal approach. It's a universal approach because these are values which are universal. Of course, there are some people in this country, they say these values belong to a certain religion. We say no, values, honesty, truthfulness, equality, helping others, sympathizing, compassion are universal values. And if we take them as universal values, then we can make use of them and contain even if there is a conflict. There has always been conflict between the human beings from the beginning to today. It will continue. So what we need is find a middle path, find some kind of solution to it, and which is based on actually in all the spiritual traditions. All the spiritual traditions are saying, telling the people to help each other. In the Sikh religion, we have three fundamental principles. fundamental principle. First thing is, remember it is God who gives you life and everything. You must remember Him. Second thing is, you must work honestly for your living. The third one is sharing. The sharing one is very important. If we have more things and we don't share, that will lead to conflict, and of course, that will also lead, that will not be sustainable. To make it sustainable, a person who has more possessions must share with people who need them. So these are very briefly issues, and our spiritual approach to that. Our Majlis, our Malaysian Consultative Council has followed that principle. We have many problems, and even under the Prime Minister's Department and the special panel always discussing these issues, and this is how we go about and are able to overcome and avoid violence, avoid any kind of open trouble between the racist or religious people. That will be a problem. If the peace is sustainable if only the values are properly understood and taught. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Now, I would like to invite Ms. Amanda Kiso, who's from Lanh Foundation in Sri Lanka. Dr. Amanda Kiso. She is actually, her PhD is exactly in this subject.
Is it still morning? Can I say good morning? Okay. I'm going to jump right into the question that was given to the panel. Right? Is sustainability possible? Right? And unfortunately, from a scientific perspective, the answer is we have absolutely no idea. We don't know, right? It's scary, but we really don't know. Our environmental systems are what we call a complex adaptive system, right? So it means there's lots of parts interacting. It's the same teaching that the Buddha gave, right? And it's unpredictable. We don't exactly know what's going to happen. We don't know if we've already passed some sort of tipping point, and if the environmental situation is going to change to a new state, right? We don't know. Our scientists already realize this, right? As he said, I did my PhD with environmental researchers, and a lot of them are buying property in areas with good access to fresh water, higher places, right? Because they don't know, right? And our spiritual leaders also realize this. I had the very good fortune to be able to travel to Dharamsala in 2008 with a group of people from Sri Lanka, actually a group of religious leaders, interfaith religious leaders, from Sri Lanka, and we went and met His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And we were actually meeting him about the topic from yesterday's panel. We were meeting him about peace, because at that time there was a very, very violent war going on in Sri Lanka, and we went to him asking for some guidance, right? So we had people there from Christian tradition, Muslim tradition, Hindu tradition, and the Buddhist tradition. And what he told us was that the situation in Sri Lanka was a man-made problem. Now, I'm not going to be gender correct in this particular case, because in this case, it really was a man-made problem. It's not a human-made problem, right? So he said it's a man-made problem, and because of that, there is a man-made solution, right? We humans made the problem, we humans can make the solution. And then he added, that's true of all our man-made problems, except one. He said, I'm not sure about climate change, right? He said, climate change is a man-made problem, but I'm not sure if there's a man-made solution, right? So when we say this, it can feel scary. It can feel kind of overwhelming, right? But I just like to suggest, this is an idea I want to put out there for today, that as Buddhists, we can actually look at this as an opportunity, right? It's an opportunity to practice loving kindness. It's an opportunity to practice compassion. It's an opportunity to practice mindfulness every single day, right? So the same trip, actually, we got to meet Venerable Tenzin Palmo, and she gave another piece of advice that I found very helpful. She told us that the people that are most difficult in our lives are our Dhamma teachers, right? The people that you meet, that you really struggle with, they're really hard to deal with, right? And I have the fortune of being able to interact with many people like that, right? They're our teachers. They're the ones that can help us work on our emotions, work on being more mindful, right? So in the same way, the environmental crisis is a bit like that, right? It's a chance for us to practice every single day another way of being mindful, another way of being spiritual, right?